for. But the big story of the day is that the Ministry of Statistics, or MoSPI, will be announcing the first advance estimates of the GDP for the current year at 4 p.m. this evening. Now, the next year's budget numbers will also be based on this data. Latha is joining in, who has done a poll of economists on what to expect from the MoSPI regarding this year's GDP estimates. Latha, good morning.
Well, there is no mistaking. Today is actually the first step that is taken for the preparation of the budget. The Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, MoSPI for short, will announce the first advance estimates of this year's GDP. Let us be very clear, this year's GDP, and it will give you both the real GDP and the nominal GDP. You know, what MoSPI actually calculates is at today's prices how much of goods and services are likely to be produced in the full year. Then they deflate it to the 2011-12 prices. So the nominal GDP becomes important. On the basis of that nominal GDP, the government in the budget will assume whatever 9-10%, depending on the chief economic advisor. They take a call on how much nominal GDP will grow. And then you derive tax as a percentage of nominal GDP, fiscal deficit as a percentage of GDP. All those numbers are derived. And then you draw up the budget. So that's why this is the first big step. Now, what does our poll say? Our poll says that real GDP in the current year will grow by only 6.3%. It's a bit of a disappointment because about 10 days ago when we did for the new year, people had said 6.4. So there is a bit of, bringing down of the expectation of real GDP. The Reserve Bank's estimate still stands at 6.6. And of course, last year we did 8.2. Now, the nominal GDP, as I told you, is the more important figure. The nominal GDP, according to my poll, is that it will be 9.9% higher. And the total figure, if it grows at 9.9%, the GDP itself will be 324.5 lakh crore. What was the assumption in the last budget? The budget had assumed, FY24 budget, had assumed that the nominal GDP will grow by 10.5% to 326.3 lakh crore. So the actual nominal GDP is likely to be less than what was assumed in the previous budget, and therefore the deficit will have to be lower. If the MoSPI's estimates of nominal GDP is indeed 324.5, then the fiscal deficit for the current year will have to be a little lower. It was assumed at 16.3, if I'm not mistaken. It has to be lower to 15.9 lakh crore. And the budget, on the basis of this nominal GDP, will assume its own growth for next year. And we will have to see, of course, a new poll on how the FY26 nominal and real GDP, that we won't know today. What we know today is this year's nominal GDP.
All eyes will be on that number. Latha, thanks a lot for that. Now,